So you've said that a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. And I've almost come to conclude that if I think that I can fly and visualize over and over and over again, will that become a belief for me? And is that possible for human beings to fly?
Well, we can't have it both ways. We can't tell you that all things are possible and then say, accept that. And we can't say that if your life experience gives you the detail that causes you to give birth to a desire, and if that happens and you find vibrational alignment with it, we can't say, except for that, and except for that, and except for that. It has to be. So the answer is, when a desire is within you and there is no contradiction in your vibration, then it must be. And there have been many things that have been seen as equally impossible that are now possible. So, meanwhile, what happens with so many is when they want something and they see it not happening, their awareness that it isn't happening dominates. And that's what we meant earlier when we said whatever it is you are giving your attention to often dominates your vibration. And so it's easy to notice that you're not flying, no matter how much you want to fly. And as you notice that you're not flying, no matter how much you want to fly, you have to find a way of looking at it differently. It's so interesting how the perceived reality affects your experience so completely. It's not even reality, it's your perception of reality that makes up your experience. Jerry and Esther bolted out of here. They found a way through the belly of the hotel to get up to their room in a more efficient way, and the service elevator is right across from their room, and so they have the benefit of going swiftly. And Esther was really, 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 really in a hurry for personal reasons that you can only guess. And they took the service elevator and pushed the button for the 10th floor, and the doors opened and they got off and went right to their room, and their keys would not work. And it's happened before where, for one reason or another, and the front desk usually tells them that they've let them be against a cell phone or against a magnet or something, and so Esther keeps her keys in one place and Jerry's in another, and so their keys, none of them would work. And so their observation was that they were standing in front of their room. They have two rooms with adjoining doors so that they have the benefit of two bathrooms, and neither of which they can get into. And Esther is sort of doing her I need to be in there fast dance, and none of the keys will work. And so she called the front desk and said, for some reason our keys are not working, and it is relatively urgent that someone come quickly with keys. And so they waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and no one came. Now, their perception is the reality of this. Here we are standing in front of our doors. The hotel has let us down because somehow they have turned our keys off and they do not work. And I only have about 35 seconds more leeway, Esther is calculating, and the doors are not opening. And when the nice man finally came, he pointed out to them they were on the 7th floor, not the 10th floor. So it's no wonder their keys did not work. But everything about their reality was based upon this misassumption. In other words, they were so certain all of the conclusions that they came to were valid if the misassumption had been accurate, which it wasn't. And so what we're getting at is that there is no reality that is responsible for your vibration. It's your perception of reality. It's the reason that we always say, over here where the good feeling emotions are is your perception of freedom, and over here where the bad feeling emotions are is your perception of lack of freedom. It's your perception, and that's the thing that's tricky. There is this reality that you perceive that is hard for you to budge from, and it's the thing we would like to shake all of you loose from. We would like you to begin saying reality, and even my perception of reality, is not as important as my ability to focus where I would like to be. And if you could jump that hurdle, this was an extraordinary experience for Jerry and Esther because they were so certain that they were right, which made everybody that they were interacting with not only wrong, but really, really rudely wrong. In other words, help just did not seem to be on the way. Little did they know the nice man was waiting on the 10th floor for them, trying to figure out where are these people who can't get into their room. And he was perceptive enough that he then started making his way down. He stopped on every floor and looked for them until he found Esther, and she took him by the collar and shook him. "Give me your keys, give me your keys." Wasn't quite that bad. And he calmly said, "Let me escort you to your room." And it is such an interesting thing, isn't it? How your reality is based upon your perception. And this whole workshop is about how reality doesn't mean diddly squat. And now you're helping us to say, and your perception of reality is very easy to move. In other words, if Esther and Jerry can move their perception of reality to something that was completely wrong, you ought to be able to move your perception of reality to something that you want, don't you think? You ought to be able to move it in any direction toward what is wanted or toward what is not wanted. People make misassumptions all the time. Why not make misassumptions about things you want? Why not begin to assume that you are much more powerful than your bank account implies? Or why not begin to assume, in other words, just realize how flexible reality is. Yes.
Beautiful. Another question. Sex and emotions. Is it possible for somebody not to invest emotions in something as beautiful as sex is? Does that make sense?
Not really.
Okay. Let me go a little bit further then. So let's say somebody's desire is to have sex and share that experience with somebody, but on the other hand, they don't want anybody to get hurt. So when somebody invests emotions in, in relationships and in sex, and one person doesn't want the full-blown relationship out of it, and the other person gets hurt, and that person doesn't like that person to get hurt, are we, in a sense, because we're part of their feelings being hurt, in that sense, helping or not helping them, but creating their reality for them because of the way that the experience has made them feel, because they feel bad?
It got worse, but we're just playing with you a little bit. We just wanted you to give a fuller explanation of it. And we want to begin by saying that maybe we are misusing the word emotion or the idea of emotion here just a little bit, because certainly we know that in this physical environment that there is the discussion about sexuality and being in love, and then there is the idea of sexuality without love. In other words, just for the physical pleasure of the sexual. And we want to put the word emotion into this whole context in this way. When you desire something, even if it is simply the pleasure of a sexual experience, that is a desire that when you line up with, you can experience the most joyous of emotions. The word love is certainly an emotion that has been misused in so many ways that it sort of scrambles people's brain even when they use it. Mothers will say to their children, "Don't you know I love you?" when there is no love anywhere near them in that moment. In other words, you can be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, which makes you the equivalent of love, or you can be pinched off from it, which makes you the opposite of love, but you cannot feel like that and be in the moment of love at the same moment. And so we would like to separate from all subjects, including the subject of sexuality. We would like to separate the label of love as a label that can always be put across it, and we would like to say all subjects are the same in that you can be participating in the subject and you can be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you can be participating in the subject and be otherwise, but it's not necessary. You can be in absolute alignment with who you are and not be in love with the person that you are having sex with. In other words, the alignment is alignment, and the sexuality is another subject to which you are applying the alignment or the misalignment. However, one of the things that you're getting at is, let's say that you are someone who has decided that you are not wanting to couple up with someone right away, that you are enjoying your freedom and that you are exploring life and collecting data, but that you still are enjoying sexual interaction. And so you are doing your best to be in vibrational alignment with who you are. And in doing so, that would mean you could not focus upon someone who saw all of that differently and push against them and be in alignment with what you want. In other words, you have to be in alignment with your vision of who you are and not push against someone else's idea. And if you were that, you would attract to you only those others who were a vibrational match to that which you are matched to. In other words, you'd attract to you others who feel the same way, who are enjoying the physical company in the same way that you're enjoying the ski trips you're going on together and the meals that you're sharing together. You're enjoying the sexual interaction, even though it's not something that you see as something that now means that you must now become a couple. But what happens with so many people is that rather than staying true to their own vibration, instead they're poking around in what the other person is thinking or wanting. And so their vibration isn't pure, and so then they attract people who want something other than that they want, who then do get their feelings hurt. You see, it's sort of like, so here's this one, and this one has an idea of what he wants, and he's a perfect vibrational match to it. And this one has an idea of what she wants and is a perfect vibrational match to it. Well, if what they want is different, and each of them are a perfect vibrational match to what they want, law of attraction would not bring them together. But let's say that this one, rather than being a vibrational match to what he wants, he's worried about what that one thinks. Now he's got some of that mixed in with his vibration, which means now he's attracting that and feeling the discomfort of it. So what you want to do is decide who you are and what you want and line up with that and let law of attraction bring you your partners. When you let law of attraction bring a partner to you and you are in alignment with who you are, you will never displease your partner. Helpful?
Absolutely. Beautiful. I kind of wanted you to walk with me through the thought process that I've had after listening to the material for X amount of time now. So you're saying that I shoot a rocket of desire, and it doesn't necessarily have to be my verbal asking. It's the feeling that I shoot the rocket of desire out.
In fact, you are doing more rocket launching with unspoken words than you are with words. You do not talk to the universe with your words. You talk with your vibration.
Okay.
You're like a transmitting radio tower, always sending a signal that it's always being answered.
Okay. So based on what I feel or the rockets of desire coming out of me, and all that is sitting in the vibrational escrow that I have created for myself in this physical experience. And as the more I feel good, that if I find things to let it in, as you say, over and over and over and over again, in that sense, am I letting go of the oars and going downstream and floating toward?
You are, in fact, and we like the words that you chose because we want to morph them just a little bit by saying, because we've used the words letting it in. When you want it and you allow it, then it is. When you desire something and you believe it, then it is. If you have a desire, there's something in your vibrational escrow and you are letting go of the oars, then the feeling of relief is your indication that you're moving in the direction of it. Your feeling of tension is your indication that you're moving in opposition of it. In other words, you can't get to anything that you want while you're feeling that negative emotion. It just cannot happen. There's just not enough action in the world to compensate for that upstream direction. So, yes, to everything that you're understanding it perfectly.
Okay.
We want to emphasize, however, that sometimes when what you want is way downstream where it feels really good and where you are is way upstream where it doesn't feel so good, we want you to really get it that because the stream is moving and because it's moving rapidly, that your work is so much simpler than you've ever thought it is. Your work really is to just stop paddling upstream. And in the moment that you stop paddling upstream, you will automatically be turned. And that's the relief point. And it's the relief point that we want you all to become aware of and actively reaching for, because if you are feeling despair, you can't get into joy immediately, but you can find relief from despair. And relief from despair means letting go and moving with the stream. And as you keep doing that, before you know it, you're letting the stream take you to everything that you've been asking for. It's just repeatedly turning back upstream, 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 upstream that turns it all down. When you're deliberately reaching for better, not the best feeling thought you've ever thought or felt, just something improved from where you are. And another thing that's really helpful is when you take everybody else out of the equation and you are only considering the relativity between how you were feeling and how you are feeling, or how you are feeling and how you will be feeling. Just that is like with any guidance system, where you are in relationship to where you want to be. Those are the only two factors that matter.